So for the walkthrough, the code walkthrough for Wheel of Fortune, we'll start the CSS file. So we have a class of game board, and for the divs underneath that, we have our margin and our width set. We have a class for our board letter, and this is going to have to deal with our game board and the letters that are in that. So we can set the font size, make sure it's centered, all of that. So when the letter appears, we have that formatted. For a non-letter space, we are just setting it to be blue, the square to be blue in the background. We have the ID of our puzzle hint, or the category. Same thing. We have our player name wrapper, so for our player names, for player master, so for all of the players, the red, yellow, blue sections, this will be the classes for that. Player 1 is going to be the red. Player 2 is yellow. Player 3 is blue. And then for the first and the second, I set the text color to white. Player info output. So this is to more specifically format the player info in the different cards at the bottom. For the player guess, so this is handling that input section. This is handling the output of what the player was able to spin. For the selected player, we have a solid black outline border. The guessed letters need to be formatted at the top. The current round indicator at the very top. When the vowels are bought, we want to center and size that. Sometimes I want to hide some things, and so I can set the class to be .hide or to hide. We have some hover for the bonus option. So when they get selection of that modal, I give a little hover color as they are going through the different options that they can select. And then I have the modal. Whoops. Okay, let's try this again. And then I have the modal information. So for the actual modal, and then for the modal content. Moving on to the HTML. So again, we have our title. This is Wheel of Fortune, our header. The Wheel of Fortune phrases. We're going to talk about that obviously coming up. So that's one JS file. So that's going to hold all the different puzzles. We have our global CSS, our Wheel of Fortune CSS, header, and our footer. We then have the header on the page of Wheel of Fortune. We have the header that comes in from the global stuff. Current round, which we automatically set to round 1. Player name, this is all the information that we show automatically to insert a player's name. We have our guessed letters div, all vowels bought. And again, we can show you here, we have the class hide. So the only thing that you actually have to do is remove that hide in order to show that. We have the game board, which is made up of a div of the border top, border middle top, or board middle bottom, and board bottom. Then we have the puzzle hint, again, or the category, however you want to look at that. The player info output, so these are the different players information. The spin output, including the button to spin, and then the player guess. So we have the input that they can type in, the button to guess a letter, the button to solve the puzzle, and then what's hidden originally, is our bonus puzzle solve button. Then we have our modal for the bonus content. And at the very bottom, we have our wheeloffortune.js, and we run that after everything has been run, so we can update anything. And mainly, it's for our board, so we can. So once it's displayed, we can then update it to what it needs to be. And then our footer. Actually, I'm going to skip down here to the fortune phrases, Wheel of Fortune phrases. I got these from this website, so feel free to go there to get them, or from here, but that's where I sourced them from. So I have a object that has all the categories, and then in each category I have an array of the puzzles. So phrase has quite a few. We have rhyme time. What are you doing? Title. Thing. Place. Before and after. Fun and games, and so on. Total, it looks like I have around 1,326. Maybe take off 2 for, so 3, but something like that for the blank lines. It's about over 1,320 puzzles that can be selected. And feel free to add more if you want. I have it dynamically choosing them, so it doesn't matter how big the arrays are, it'll be able to cycle through all of this, and we'll talk about that right now. So at the top, I used a lot of the wikipedia.org to figure out how the game is actually played. I learned a lot about how this game is actually played. We automatically set the puzzle to be a blank string, an empty string. Round is set to 1. Current spin value. That's going to be actually the actual dollar amount for that the user spun. Current player index, which is always going to be 0. When we start, it's going to be 0, which will reference that red. Whoever's in the red player. Solved puzzle. So this is how much of the puzzle has been solved already, which is how it's what we're going to use to actually display on the game board. The guessed letters. So again, that's an empty array. Have they spun? Automatically set that to false. Options array. Bonus round category. So we will set that category when the user sets it. And then we have a little bit of a difference. So wheel 1 is going to be wheel for round 1. And so what I've done here, when you look at the wheel, you have all of these different wedges. There happens to be one, at least that I found, that was made up of 3 parts: bankrupt, $1 million, and bankrupt. So in order for me to make that work, is I just split each wedge into 3, and then they have duplicates. So you can make all of them be split by 3 if you want, and change all of these. I just left them be the same. So this actually references one wedge. This references one wedge that just happened to be split up by 3. Everything else that was split up is just one wedge. That's why you see a lot of triplicates. And same thing here with wheel 2 and 3. So this is for rounds 2 and 3. I forgot exactly what was different. Oh, here's one of them. So this is the 2,500, and then this is 3,500. Off the top, that's what I can see is different. It still has the bankrupt million, bankrupt wedge. And then we have the wheel bonus. So it goes from 5,000 all the way to 100,000 that they can win. Then we have our players, and that is an array of objects. Automatically I set each of the names to be an empty string. Their round purse is 0, total purse is 0, has wild is false, and free play is false. I kind of gave some pseudocode here. So the first thing is to be able to add players, which we can do right here. So when they type in a name, then we're going to look and see if it is blank, or if player 0 is blank. If it is, then we will set that input for this player's dot name, and then if 1 is blank, and then if 2 is blank. This is the only chance to set them, so this works this way. And then on the very last one, once we have set it, we then make the input for the player name input none. We get rid of the display for it, so we don't show it anymore. We set a temporary array of temp players to be empty. While the length is greater than 0, then we're going to take temp players and push in all of the players, and we're going to because we're pulling them out of the players array. So we're actually going to pull these out, put them into here in a random order, and then we're going to set players back to be what temp players is and call some other functions. So that is how we are randomizing the players. Each time we're also clearing out the value. So after you type in the first one or the second one, we clear out the input. So that shows add players and how to randomize the position. So to update the player info output, which is shown right here, we're going to go clear out the info output. And then for each of the players, we will, if it's player 1, we will give it the class of player 1. If their player's index 0, then they're player 1, and so on and so forth. And based on that, we'll determine what the colors are. So it'll be red, yellow, and blue. We will set the player name, which just comes from the player, and we turn that into a number to get the name. We then look at the player round purse and the total purse and player prizes. So if they have a wild, they can have a W. If you want, you can add a trip. I know trips are pretty big on the show, cars, any of that. I just went with a wild. But if you were to add any other prizes, this is where you could display that on the player's card. So I have all of these individual values, and then I just add them all for that player. So I combine them all together and add it to the HTML. And does that for each player. To clear the board, so we want to do this after they have guessed and they've won. For whatever reason you want to clear the board, we take all 3 of those ID or elements and get them by their IDs, which we showed you on the HTML file. And for the top and the bottom, which have the same number, we set them. Each of their inner elements, we clear them out and set them to a non-letter space. And the same thing for the middle 2, which have the same number of squares. And then the solved puzzle is cleared out. To handle a new puzzle, we clear that board. We get a new puzzle, and we set new puzzle with the false. So set new puzzle. So we have this bypass. I don't know if this is the best way to do it. This is how I did it. The whole point of this is when you look at the game board, there are the 4 rows. They tend to favor the middle 2. So if it is a puzzle that will fit on one line, it'll be on the second line from the bottom, or second line from the top. So in my case, it's my top middle row, or middle top row. And then if it's 2 lines, it'll start there and go to the middle bottom row. And if it's 3 lines, it'll go basically the bottom 3, and it'll leave that top 1 empty. If it equals 4 rows, if it needs all 4 rows to show the puzzle, then it uses obviously all 4. But if it uses anything less than that, it uses the bottom ones. So I automatically set it to false, and then it's going to it's going to start on that second row. If it's true, then I know it's going to be using that top one. And the only way to call set new puzzle true, it gets called in set new puzzle true, or it gets set in here. And in fact, I can show that right here. This is the only place that gets done. So if the puzzle length is less than or equal to 14, then we're going to call this function center blank spaces on row. And it's row 1, it's actually technically 2, index 1 though, and we're going to send in the puzzle. And so this is the function that we'll talk about in a little bit that will set that. And so this is just saying, okay, it's less than 14, and we know it's going to fit on that only on one row, and it's going to be that second row. If it's bigger than that, we know it has to fit on more than one. So there's some more calculation that needs to occur. So our puzzle array then gets split by the spaces. We set our top row to be blank, our middle row to be the first index of this puzzle array plus a space. And our middle and bottom rows will be an empty index. If the puzzle length is less than 40 and bypass is false, then the middle top row to the puzzle array 0, and we reset these all to be clear. For the puzzle array length, we're going to cycle through it, and we've already taken care of index 0, so we're going to start at 1. If 14 minus the middle top row dot length is greater than or equal to the puzzle array's index dot length, and the middle bottom row is equal to 0 still, then we will add to it this current index plus a space. So we're just trying to see, will this new piece I want to add to it fit inside of there? If it will, and the next one is still 0, then great. If not, then we're going to go to the next, which is what we do here. So then we add it to the middle bottom row. We're going to say, okay, well, does it fit here? So the first row is filled up, middle top row is filled up. So the middle bottom row, will that fit? As long as it will fit in the middle bottom row and the bottom row is empty, then we will set it to this row. And then obviously since we're under 40, we know it has to fit on the bottom one, so if it fails those two, then we will add it to the bottom row. If it's greater than 40, this is where we do all that stuff the same, except we set the top row, and we're starting from there, going down. So it has to be less than the 40 and false. So if that's ever true here, then it'll completely bypass this. So if it's over that size, then we're going to go down here. So this is just a fail-safe that if for whatever reason, because of spacing and word size, that things don't fit, and we get down here to bottom row and it happens to be larger than 12, then we're going to recall all of this with true, and it'll reset all of this to fit into the 4 rows. And then we just set, we call the center blank spaces on row for each of these different rows. And we trim it, get rid of the starting and ending spaces since we added the spaces at the end of each one of these. So we strip that off, and we have it center so that all of the puzzle is as centered on that puzzle board as possible. To get a new puzzle, we have this big switch statement. And we are going to get a random value, multiply it by 100, and we want to modulate it with 29. So that's why we had to multiply it by 100, so we have the ability to modulate it by 29. There are there'd be 30 different options here. Sorry, 29 different options. Yeah, start with 0, get all the way to 28. Which means we'll get 0 through 28. We then take the floor of it. So if it has decimals, we just strip those off. And then we know which case it's gonna give us. So for instance, the first one is phrase. We're going to set the puzzle hint in the inner HTML. We don't really save it in the JS because we don't really need that value. It's just for the user. And then we set the puzzle to be puzzles.phrase because that is this case. And again, we're going to get a random. We're going to give it up to 1,000. And we're going to modulo. So we're modulo it with that, get the floor, and then modulo it with the length of the phrase, puzzle.phrase array. Therefore, you can keep adding as many as you want, and you should always be able to, you should always grab the right one. You may need to increase this value, which wouldn't hurt to make that actually a variable. Feel free to do that. And so this is just copied over and over and over again for each of them. So you can see same letter, showbiz, on the map, people, all the way through to living thing. Now for center blank spaces on row. So it takes in the row index. So that's going to be on the game board at the top, middle, bottom middle, or the bottom one, 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And it'll take in the string. So that portion of the puzzle that will be on that line. We start the line index at 0. Line start index at 0. If the row index is 1 or 2, because it has these are the middle two, they have the larger ones, and then these are the top and the bottom, which are 12. They have 2 less. So it's gonna be the same thing, or same process, just with a couple. It's just gonna be cycled through 2 more times up here. If the line string length is less than 14, just another double check. Then line start index equals math dot right. So this is saying if it's less, then we're going to take 14 minus the line string length. We will divide that by 2. We will get the floor of whatever that answer is. Strip off, so again, stripping off the decimals, add 1 to it, and that is the line start index for that line. So we've updated this number. Because we know if it equals 14, then it's just gonna be the whole line. And then we know from that we're going to cycle through the line string length, and we're going to start at the line start index. So while the length plus the start index is less than, while I is less than the start index plus the string length, then we will go through this. And if the line at the string, the character at I minus the line start index again, because we want to get back to the index on the line string. If that is not equal to a space, then we're going to remove the non-letter space class. And we're going to, on the solved puzzle.push, we're going to push the row index plus I. We're going to make it a string by doing this. And then we're going to push whatever that character is. So we're actually pushing in an array into this array. If it is a special symbol at the current index, then we actually display what that is. And we add that to the solved puzzle as well. And again, this is the exact same thing that happens down here, just gets cycled through 2 less times. Otherwise, we will alert the player that the puzzle will not fit on board row index. This is really just more for the developer side of this. Kind of the crux of this that really intrigued me was, how do you get the message to go where you want it to go, both vertically and then also horizontally with the centering. Next is it a special character? Pretty quick and easy. I determine which ones are. There probably is a Redux way to do this. I decided to do it this way. So I go through all the special characters, and if it's one of those, then we return true, otherwise return false. So when you click on the spin, I could have shown the wheel. It seemed like it was taking so much time, and I just decided I didn't want to put that much time and effort into it. So we have a basic randomized return value on this. So as long as the player has, if they have spun, then it'll tell them you've already spun, just make a guess. If they have not spun, then we automatically tell it true. You could probably put this at the bottom of this if statement. I put it there. If it's round 1, then the current spin value will be, again, the randomization of wheel 1. So since it's an array, I can take the math dot random times 100, get the floor of it, and then modulo that by the length of wheel 1. And as long as it's below round 4, which happens to be our bonus round, same thing happens just with wheel 2, 3. If it's not one of those, then it's the bonus round, and we get it do the exact same thing from the wheel bonus. And instead of actually displaying what the winnings are, I just tell them your winnings have been selected, good luck. And then they get to guess. And then we have this whole handle bonus round. Again, if it is less than, not the bonus, we do a quick regex. We're looking to see if it has capital A through Z in the first letter. If it does, then we show the current spin. We say you spun current spin value. Oh, right, and then we handle spin result, which I'll show you right here in a second. So this is if there's a wild or bankrupt or lose your turn involved in the spin. If not, then I just get the spin value gets to be whatever the result is, and we just double check to make sure that it doesn't need to have a comma or anything. So like for the million, this would just is for formatting. For the handle spin result, it's a switch statement. So we look at the current spin value because we automatically have set that current spin. So it could say bankrupt in there. However, we don't really show the bankrupt. We just have them move on. We tell them in that modal and then move on. So if it is bankrupt, then we set the round purse to 0 for the current player index. If they have a wild, we remove that. The current spin value is now going to be 0. Alert, you are bankrupt. And then we're going to increment the player and break. If it's a wild, then we set it to 500. We have the current player index. We set it to true. And then we just change on the wheel. We get rid of the wild and we send them back just to 500. For free play, we get to set the player to free play, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. Lose a turn, we set the current spin value to 0, alert you lost turn, and increment the player. I did have some trip in code in here. I wanted to leave this in case someone wanted to move forward with it. And basically just strips off the trip. But I didn't actually implement much with the trip for this. If all the vowels are bought, we just call this function right here. We call this to find out if all the vowels are bought, and it just checks through to see if A, E, I, O, and U. Y does not count as a vowel in this game. So this will return true if all those are there, and false if they're not. Guess a letter. So this is kind of the big crux of the whole game. It's kind of big. So the guess is going to come in from whatever the player guess input included. And we're only grabbing the first value, and we're going to set it to uppercase immediately. So for the rest of it, we can compare straight against capitals. So I'm going to check if it's a consonant, so A, E, I, O, or U. And then that just gives us that value. So if they have spun, and it is not a consonant, so therefore it's a vowel, we just double check again, then it's going to fall into here. Otherwise, here we'll just do the otherwise real quick. You have not spun, please spin first. If it is not a consonant, again, therefore vowel, then we double check, do they have a free play? If they do, then we don't really care about handling anything with the price. If they don't, then we deduct $250 for them no matter what. We update the player info to reflect that. And we'll handle the actual game board in a second. In otherwise, you don't have enough to buy the vowel, so please guess a consonant. If guessed letters includes the guess, and we double check if they have a free play. Again, free play just lets them basically make a mistake with no repercussions. So they don't. So if they have that, then we get rid of their free play. So if they have that, we get rid of the free play. And the letter, whatever the guess is, has already been guessed. But we tell them you have a free play, so you can spin again. If they don't have the free play, then it's already been guessed, and we increment the player. If the play puzzle index of the guess equals -1, so if it's not in the puzzle, then we just double check if they have a free play. If they do, then they can spin again. If they don't have a free play and it's not in the puzzle, then we just increment the player. So if all of those ifs don't come to it, or and else ifs, we come here, which is where the majority of it is going to come most of the time, or again, majority of it. The consonant count is going to be 0 to start with for the solved puzzle letter in the solved puzzle. So this is just saying we're going to cycle through the solved puzzle letters. If guess equals the solved puzzle letter at 1 at the first index, then we will set the solved puzzle. We'll get the inner HTML of this ID, of this element, and we'll set it equal to, which again is going to be the index, so the 0 of that. If that makes sense, because remember that's an array of arrays. So the solved puzzle letter has two parts to it: the 0 and the 1. 0 is going to be the index. 1 is going to be the actual letter. So we set it. We get the element by its ID, and we set it to the letter. Therefore, basically, all this is showing is that it's actually going to set the letter on the game board. And if it's a consonant, we increase the consonant count. So we cycle through that to get all of them. And so the more there are, the more this increases. However many times that letter shows up in the puzzle, we increase this count by. If the current spin value substring is W, and the consonant is greater than 0, consonant count greater than 0, then the has wild we set to true. So this is what's happening when they have spun, or we are handling adding that W, that wild to the player. If it's an F and or a W, then now we're just updating the current spin to just be the 500, so we can appropriately increase that to the purse later, or to the round score, I guess. If it is a consonant and the consonant count is greater than 0, then we will set the round purse to increment by whatever the current spin value is, which parse it to an int, times the consonant count. So whatever they spun, say 500, and they have 2 letters, 2 L's pop up, then they would get $1,000. If the guessed letters does not include the guess, then we will add it to the guessed letters and push it to the guessed letters. And this is where we check if all vowels are bought. Then we will tell them in the console. That was more for testing. We'll do that there. And then we also set it. We remove that hide, the class hide, from that div that we showed earlier. The player guess input gets reset. Update player info output gets reset or updated. Has spun gets set to false now. Guessed letters gets updated. And player's spin output gets cleared out. And then every time we just reset free play to false, because it only lasts for that certain round. So that's why for the vowel one we didn't see it up top, we have it here. This is the catch-all down here. And if they successfully got it, then we do not increment the player yet. That gets incremented only when they fail or they lose a turn or bankrupt. So for solve the puzzle, so this is when they've typed in the whole puzzle, and we want to see if they got it correctly. Then we set it into guess. Again, only gets the we automatically set it to the uppercase values. If puzzle equals what the guess was, then we just cycle through the whole solved puzzle and set everything and show the whole puzzle being solved. We have a little bit of a timeout, so everyone can see that, and then we say, "Great, you solved the puzzle." As long as it's as long as it's not the bonus round. Then we go through the current player index. So the player's current player index, total purse. We increment that. If it's less than 1,000, then we set it to be 1,000. Otherwise, it's whatever was in the round purse, and that gets moved to the total purse. And then I reset all round purses for each player to 0. Update player info output and go to the next round. If they did not guess it and they don't have a free play, then we increment the player and tell them you got the puzzle wrong. If they do have a free play, then we set the free play to be false and alert them that you got the puzzle wrong. You can guess again because you have a free play. And then we clear out the input. For the solve bonus puzzle, it's going to be similar. So again, we set it, we check. If it's correct, we show it all. We have a little bit of a timeout. And then we just tell them what they won. So now they can see what was in that envelope that they selected and give them the grand total. I kept this in there. I guess you could refactor this. And then for each of the players, we clear it out. Guess this really isn't needed. I'm gonna go with these really aren't needed. on the fly coding right there. We update the player info output, set the timeout, and we reload. So I give them a minute to look at that, I believe, and then I reload the page to refresh them. We could just clear all the values, either way. If they got the puzzle wrong, then we tell them you got the puzzle wrong. Check if they have the free play, which they won't have. So you can clearly see I copy and pasted this. Whole gist is you got the puzzle wrong, and then they'd be stopped. So incrementing player really just is what it says. It's going to increase it. So we automatically will again clear out the free play for whoever the current player is. Has spun, gets changed to false. So we clear out player spin output. We increase the player index, and then we double check that the current player index doesn't equal 3. If it does, we set it to 0. And update player info output. Next round, clears out the puzzle, increases the round number, clears out the spin nut value, sets the current player index to be 0, but then we look to see, we cycle through the players, and whoever has the least amount to begin with, or least amount in the total purse, becomes the current player index. Solved puzzle gets cleared out, guessed letters gets cleared out, has spun, gets turned to false. We update the player output, info output. We'll clear out the spin output, clear out all the vowels. If the round equals 4, then we set it up for the bonus round. We call that function. Otherwise, we just update the round on the screen. We handle the new puzzle and clear out the guessed letters. So we've set up for our bonus round. We set the winning player index to -1, winning player total purse to 0. We cycle through the players to find out who the highest total purse is, and the winning player index equals that player, and the total purse is that player's index, or that player's total purse. And then we set current player index to that winning player index and update the player information or info output. To get the bonus round category options, we have this options array. We have all of the categories listed here. We do a math random. Again, you can add categories here, and we will automatically, it'll be dynamically chosen for that. We push in all categories dot the random index, and then we splice it, and we do that 3 times. For set bonus category, once they've picked one, we say set bonus. We call it set bonus category with whatever that index, the options index array is, and we get a puzzle from one of those categories, and then we show what the puzzle hint is to the user. We get rid of the modal. We let them know, hey, spin for your bonus. And then we have the guess bonus round. So for each letter in the guessed letters, we then display that for them. And then we show what has been solved, which are the letters in there as part of the solved puzzle. Submitting bonus letters. So we pop up a modal. We automatically give them inputs, three consonants and a vowel. If they have the wild, then we set the 4th consonant. Sorry, this is actually submitting them. So from the modal, which we'll show in a second, we grab all of them. If they have a while, then we know there's a fourth one. We get rid of that modal, and we add them to the guest letters, and then do the guest bonus round. And that's what this is. So it's taking in, it's cycling through all the guest letters and what has passed through and what actually is a part of that puzzle. Set up for the bonus round. We set the current round to just say bonus. We clear the board. We cleared the guest letters on the display. We set the bonus round player, which we already showed. We hide the solve button and show the bonus puzzle solve button just because they have a different on-click function. Options array equals the get all bonus round category options. And then we display what those categories are. So this actually pops up the modal for them to select which category they want to solve for. We show it. And then we handle the bonus round. So we spin it, we randomly select the categories, we set the new puzzle, we auto select RSTLNE. That's what the game does. So we automatically set the guest letters to be those ones, which is how we can cycle through those to show them to begin with. We then display those. That's where we have the guest bonus round, which was right here, because we want to cycle through these guest letters. We have a brief timeout so they can look at the game board, look at the letters that have been guessed, which again are just the basic automatic ones, and then they get to pick their 3 consonants and 1 vowel. So we're up here, we were submitting them for the board to see what actually is in the puzzle. This is setting up the modal to show whether they have the 3 or 4 consonants and the vowel that they can select. So that is how this game is coded, and you guys can take it further or inspire you to make your own game. Thanks, and like and subscribe, and see you next time.